Sterilizing, buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Seize their shit, force them out. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids. No one thinks countries lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social side, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force them back, fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one thinks countries lie to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Yeah! Coming back around again.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Rock the Boat right here on UCY.TV, my favorite online network by a long shot. And I'm proud to say that it's some really good hosts on this network. But anyways, today is the 15th of October. It is very warm today, and it's getting windy, and the temperature is supposed to drop like a rock this afternoon. Supposed to get very windy, and but be cool tomorrow and then start warming up again, which I'm quite happy with. And all you climate change nutcases out there, you know, when I was a kid, I was within 2 or 3 years of each other. One Halloween. It was so freaking warm that even wearing a costume was a problem. And we're sweating. And a year or two later, we're wearing parkas. So, you know, it's called cyclical. It's called normal. But, of course, if you've been through the school system, nothing is normal. Except everything that's abnormal becomes normal. And normal becomes abnormal. Anyways, we got, today is the last day before voting, which is tomorrow, in the city of Calgary, province of Alberta, in the country of Canada. And so I won't be talking, this will be the last day I'll be talking about Calgary for a while. May just have a comment or two after we see who wins this election. But Muslim man, Naheed Nenshi, is so connected with the globalists, it's ludicrous, you know. And so they'll be pulling all stops to get him back in there. But a lot of Calgarians seem to be getting ticked off. The question is, are enough of them going to be ticked off, and are enough of them even going to go out and vote? So what we need is a huge number of haters and racists to get to the polls. Now, I've been accused of being a racist and a hater a gazillion times. I'm neither. But apparently the incumbent mayor who's running for his third term is, because on at least 2 separate occasions, he's telling people that there seems to be a lot of people looking like they're going to vote that don't normally vote in municipal elections. And he categorized those people who might come out to vote to try to kick his ass out of power. He referred to them specifically as haters and racists who would vote in order to subvert democracy. This is the problem, right? The so-called far left, the Marxist contingent in our country, they have no problem. If anybody questions them or challenges them on anything, they throw out the hater, racist lingo at them because these people can't have an intelligent conversation, because the reason they can't have an intelligent conversation or debate is because they know what they're up to is no good. So they can't engage in a debate. All they have in their arsenal is throw out the racist cards and the I'm offended cards and the hey, you're a hater type of nonsense, which is exactly what this Muslim mayor, the first Muslim mayor of a major North American city. And he's a player. And we got to get him out of there. So hopefully the good people of Calgary do so. Although I don't know that those running the election are going to allow it to happen. So we'll see. We'll see come Monday night who won the election. It doesn't really make any difference because the other contender is a lawyer, makes him a liar. He's got a degree in education, which makes him a manipulator and a very dangerous dude. And and he was the leader of the PC party, president of the PC party in Alberta. So he's a globalist player as well, but the idea is to remove some of this Muslim, so-called Muslim power out of our nation. So I don't know what I did last night, but I put a post in about resilient cities, I believe it was, and it was on a site which was the Ismaili Muslim site, and I put that up on Facebook just before I went on air last night, and I don't know that I even managed. I think I just hit the post button, and all of a sudden I'm back in Facebook jail for another 14 days. So that means 21 days on Facebook. I've been out of jail for 4 freaking days. So we got to find some alternative places where we can get to people, because Facebook obviously ain't the place to get to people from, unless, of course, you're a globalist and Marxist and whatever. Then you can say whatever the hell you want. But if you're trying to save your nation, see ya. And then after the show last night, that was really strange. Last night after the show, I disconnected the callers and shut down UCY, and then lastly shut down Revolution Radio, and my computer just went ape shit. I couldn't control nothing on here, and I had about 80 some tabs open. I run these things open so I can discuss what I've found, and by the time all the noise was done, all the nonsense was done on the machine, it had eradicated all my tabs in that. So it makes my job easier doing shows because I have all this stuff connected together. So basically I'm starting with a blank slate again today. So, anyways, here's I'm going to start with this story. I know some people are getting getting sick and tired about me talking about Calgary, but I want people to understand this isn't about Calgary, okay? It's about your town. It's about your city, okay? Because what's going on in Calgary is going in your town and your city, okay? This is across the board. It's across the board. So, I may just call the police today. Now, here's a woman who looks like she's a Muslim, and apparently she accused someone of making online racist, of course, death threats. Not just death threats, but racist death threats against a Calgary school board trustee candidate. Says he didn't do it. And Calgary police confirmed their hate crimes unit is no longer investigating the comments. The candidate, for her part, gave contradictory statement to CBC News. Okay? Now, yep, she definitely looks like a Muslim. And so see who we can dig out here. And this is what happens, right? Like, Karen Draper, who's running in wards 12 and 14 for school board trustee, she speaks the truth. And for her speaking the truth, coming out of the gates, CBC, her Facebook site was removed by Zuckerberg, another globalist asshole hooked up with the CIA, who's a Jew, and she just got hammered in the media for being what the hell they call her, a radical or something. But anyways, they took her to task and trashed her because they don't want anybody that's truthful in any part of a government. Anyways, let's just look at this story a little bit. Oh, here we go. This is a total setup. So she looks Muslim, and there's a note, like another link in here. Racist death threats made to trustee candidate, not the kind of Calgary we want to live in, Nenshi says, who's the first Muslim mayor of a major North American city. But at the same time, Nenshi's calling anybody that basically doesn't vote for him a racist and a hater and a subverter of democracy. So I'm going to go look at this first. Oh yes, this is sad. Since this story was published, CBC News has spoken with Sean Street, who denies any involvement in the threatening posts. Calgary police have recently confirmed that the matter is no longer under investigation. Calgary Mayor Naheed Nenshi says he's concerned but not surprised by violent racist threats made on Facebook to school trustee candidate. He says he fielded only a handful of such attacks in his first 5 years in office, but now faces an almost daily barrage. Well, yeah, people caught on to the deception, and they're pissed about it, and now they're coming at you, and you deserve to be come at. Okay? You deserve to be dragged through the mud. You deserve to be kicked out of their country. Anyways, the target of the most recent threats was Nimira Amjad, who is running in the upcoming municipal election to become a school trustee in Ward 3 and 4. Now, the last freaking thing you want in your public school system is a bunch of Muslim school board trustees because a week or so ago, probably a week ago, big announcement that the Alberta school education is going to start teaching Arabic in the public schools. And if you've got a bunch of Muslims on the school board, you're going to have your Muslim prayers and yada, yada, yada. And it will be, you're going to have a bunch of kids running around yelling about Allah and whatnot. So this is a very dangerous game that's going on here, and it's all coming out of places like the Rockefeller Foundation, which stewed up the 100 resilient cities, of which Nenshi was praised because Calgary was chosen out of all the cities in the world. Calgary was chosen as one of the 100 resilient cities. And so they got their foot in the door. And we got to slam the door on their foot, basically. There were 2 threatening comments left on Image Facebook campaign page by someone posting under the name Sean Street, and a private message was sent to her personal account. In the first comment, Image was called a racial slur and asked what right she had to run for office in Canada. The post threatened that the neo-Nazi group Aryan Guard would find out where she lives, telling her to beware. Aryan Guard has been active in Calgary in the past. Another post read, "You will be lying dead on the street like Heather Heyer." Now, I don't know who Heather Heyer is. Well, okay, here it goes. Heyer is the 32-year-old protester killed after a car drove into a crowd in Charlottesville, okay, where white supremacist groups and counter-protests violently clashed. The fact that people are emboldened to do that, that's not the kind of Calgary we live in. That's not the kind of Calgary we want to live in for our kids, Nenshi said. Letting in even the littlest edge of the wedge on this stuff is incredibly dangerous, and we need to be able not to tolerate intolerance. Imagine who called the threats terrifying, said she's working with Calgary police who are investigating. Now, you didn't have Nenshi come out when Karen Draper, there was 2 comments left on this Muslim school board trustee's Facebook that upset her. And Karen Draper's site was just hammered with these Marxist, leftist, Muslim, whatever the hell you want to call them, Jews. It was the longest thread I think I've ever seen on a Facebook. And the hate that was directed at Karen Draper, who's running for school board trustee in wards 12 and 14, specifically because she sees what's going on in the school system. She has a young child who's going to be entering school, and she's fearful for the future of her child going into the school system. And that's why she ran, because she understands, she's very knowledgeable in what's going on, and ran to try to help other people understand and turn the school system back to the basics sort of thing, what really matters, not promoting gay pride and anal sex and the Arabic language and all the rest of this nonsense that's going on. She just got pounded. Did the police come to her? No. Right? Nope, because she's a racist and a hater, according to the ones who are calling everyone racist and haters. When you run an election, you're going to get some people that aren't happy about it, but it depends who the police are going to go and help. And I give the police credit in this case because they couldn't find any evidence and they had to pack it up. But Nenshi says he's seeing an increasing level of racist attacks, yet here he is in the videos calling those who don't vote for him racist and haters. I mean, this guy needs to not be just kicked out of office. He needs to be kicked the hell out of the country. Nenshi says Amjad is not alone. I could probably count the number of racist attacks that I have personally received in the first 5.5 years of public office on one or two hands. Now, almost every day. And what I get is a tiny portion of what women in public life get. The threats reflect a growing number of racist incidents and hateful behavior, which come as no surprise to minorities, says Nenshi. We have been seeing an increasing level of this kind of activity for many, many months, and I'm really happy that the rest of the world has woken to it now, said Nenshi. Because the only way to solve it is by good, decent people standing up and saying this is not appropriate. Well, I consider myself a good, decent man, and I will tell you, Nenshi, what you and the globalists are up to is not appropriate. You know, I have a paper from a Muslim woman who's in education, and it's titled Queering Early Childhood Education. I would say that's not appropriate. The mayor of any city or any town is tripping down the street with a bunch of mentally deranged people called LGBTQ2, X, Y, Z, W, whatever the hell they're going to add to it next, is not appropriate. Setting up your towns and cities to be sold off to the globalist corporations is not appropriate. But you always lay, oh, that's a hater language, that's racist. Bullshit. It's the truth. But you can't deal with the truth, so you come out with the, oh, I'm offended, oh, you're a racist, oh, you're a hater. Now, no man, no leader should ever be using terms like that, because you sound like a whiny little kid, which you are. The entire movement is a bunch of whiny little mentally deranged children. That goes from the so-called prime minister down to your local mayor and council. So this isn't just about Calgary, what I'm talking about. This is across the board. This is the attempted takedown of the West. Unless you're completely blind, you've looked at Europe. And everything that lands in Europe is going to end up here within 6 months to 2 years. History states that. Just like the renewable energy bull crap and the shutting down of our coal plants, all you had to do was look at Europe, and you knew that was coming here, because it's a globalist movement. And all the universities where Nenshi, and I'm sure this woman who's running for the school board came out of, are indoctrination centers to take these whiny, stupid people, fill their heads full of bunk, have the professors write papers, and all of these papers and the universities are basically funded by globalists. So what comes out of the university is the globalist agenda. And they're so brain dead and indoctrinated, anybody that goes against the globalist agenda is a racist and a hater and offends people and yada, yada, yada. As far as I'm concerned, the first thing we should do in all of our nations is shut down all of the freaking universities, shut down the public school systems, wipe the slate clean, and start again. Because it's poison. It's toxic. Just like the politics is poison and toxic. We need to cleanse this, get back down to a start point, and rebuild these things. Because you can't fix this garbage. It's too far gone. The MLA for Calgary Glenmore, Anam Kazim, I lived in freaking Alberta. I worked all over Alberta. I lived in Calgary. I lived in Edmonton. We didn't hear any of these names. You know, Naheed Nenshi, Amaja, Anand Kazim. What the hell's going on? We're allowing these people to get into positions of power. And we got to nip that in the bud. Because we, the Canadian people, apparently don't like to be involved in politics. We just let them do what they do. And then we bitch and complain about what they did to us. But we don't engage in it. We don't engage in this fight. So now you got all these migrants piling in here, and they're all being moved as quickly as possible into positions of power. Well, who writes your laws? Who writes your bylaws? Those in positions of power. And will you sit back and bitch and complain? These people are taking the power. And do you think for 1 second that any of these laws that are going to be written are going to be for the favor of those, of the offspring of those who built this nation? You're all going to be praying 5 times a day. So anyways, Anam Kazim is a Pakistani Canadian who has experienced discrimination too. She says Alberta's future is about diversity and inclusivity. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's about wiping diversity and inclusivity off of the map, because diversity and inclusivity comes out of the globalist playbook. And those words, those 2 words, should offend the hell out of any respecting Canadian. And I think I just got one here who's going to yell at me for something for talking about Calgary again. Christopher, how you doing?
Hey, bud. I didn't think you were going to put me on that quick.
Well, you scare the hell out of me. I don't want you calling the police, calling me a racist hater because I didn't bring you into the show quick enough. It's all about diversity and inclusivity, so I didn't have a choice.
You know what? Sholiak was on before you today, as per usual. Good man, good show. Actually, yep. Good man, great show.
Yep.
He was talking about, he touched a little bit about health.
About what?
He touched on a little bit about health, about eating right.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And fermented foods and what you put in your stomach, because your stomachs are being rotted now.
Yeah.
And he's trying to suggest there's ways that, we could clean it out and get yourself healthy again, basically. And then you just expounded upon that, whether you knew it or not, about our society in North America with the government. I mean, the same thing has to occur. We've got belly rot.
The whole thing's toxic.
Yes.
Your food's toxic, your air's toxic, your water's toxic, your politics are toxic, your churches are toxic, your schools are toxic. And you expect us to survive this? We can't unless we clear it out. You got to clean it out. I was thinking that you brought up health, Chris. The other day I was thinking about it, They have to put toxic labels on rat poison or whatever. And I was thinking that if you want the truth, there isn't a man or woman or child in North America that shouldn't be walking around with a toxic label on their forehead. Their bodies are completely toxic, which means their minds are toxic. I mean, and it's not by accident. It's not by accident. I mean, how is it that everything that you purchase in the store to put in your stomach is toxic? This is a hit on the people, and all of my families, most of them anyways, are farm people. In fact, most of the people in this country at one time or another were connected to the land. And those people lived very long, very healthy lives, both physically and mentally. And now we have sickly people who have the ability to run around going, "Oh, I'm offended." Even when I call government frickin' agencies, you try to get into a discussion with, "Well, that offends me. I'm going to hang up now." This is your government, folks. A bunch of whiny, snivelly little children who are pushing a very ugly agenda down your throats. So, anyways, how did Shawley suggest that we get well?
Well, talking fermentation on his show, and I agree. I do some of that myself. Shawley says he's been doing it for 9 days now. He's been fermenting foods, and kind of like the way I make wine with my grapes. I got to ferment them first.
Yeah.
You can't get real soya beans anymore because they're all genetically modified. But in the old days, and I think they still do it in, I believe it's Japan and China, they have real soya beans, and you don't liquefy them and dump it on your rice. You ferment them first, and that's how they do it. But we don't do that here.
Well, our problem here is you really don't need to ferment food if you have real food, right?
Well, he touched on that. He's just saying fermentation. From what I understood, fermentation is just another tool in the chest, so to speak, or the stomach.
Right. Right. But the fact is that it doesn't matter if you're eating meat or vegetables. In the West, it's all poison.
Yeah.
Right. And you would ask yourself a simple question: well, why does the government allow us to eat poison food? Well, because they don't want you here. Right? If you're healthy, the pharmaceutical companies don't make any money off your ass. You're a money pit. Okay, you're a source of funding. Right? That's all you are. You're a piece of walking, talking money to these guys. And these companies don't make any money if you're healthy. These companies don't make any money if you're not buying their poison to spread on your fields, or the needles to stuff into the animals, or the needles to stuff into your kids. And when you boil it all down, we are the goy, and which classifies as animals, which is the definition of human, and they do what they want with the animals. And so you can go right back to Animal Farm. That's a really true depiction.
It is.
Yeah, because we are classed as animals. We're not men, we're not women, we're animals. And they do with us what they will. And we just lay down and let them do it. Now, men and women wouldn't allow this to happen. But we've lost our status as men and women. And we're basically just sheep and following the system. And the system has taken us to slaughter. Not a good deal. So, I've thought about food lots. And one thing that Paul's done, because he's trying to get off that damn fentanyl that they put him on, for pain when his hip was all shattered or rat crap and that. And I guess this is a super addictive drug, which makes them happy. And trying to wean himself off it. And so he went over and bought a share in Michael's farm. And they do all their own baking. All the vegetables in that are organic, and the meat is all organic, and the milk is all raw, not processed. And Paul found that just eating that food, this goes to Shali, I guess, just eating that food, he managed to wean himself down 50% on the fentanyl he was taking, and he feels a hell of a lot healthier because he's not filling his body full of toxins. And that makes you weak, right? So he's getting stronger, and he's managed to wean himself. He says this last 50% is going to be real pig, but he's working on it. And this is what they do to you. And you should be ticked off about it. I mean, you take your kid to the doctor, anybody goes to the doctor, the first thing you want to do is write your prescription and stick a needle in your arm. And you go, what's wrong with you people? You know, I got a headache or I got an ear infection, right? And they want you hooked on the drugs. They want you to continue to, it's really funny. Oh, we can't burn coal because, well, it's toxic, and I love their data, and that's all at the Rockefeller Foundation and that. These are data hounds. They're always talking about data. Because once you got the data, you can skew the data any damn way you want and present it in the news, which the news is on side with these guys, and make it be whatever they want it to be. So coal plants are bad. I remember this, like 1,600 people per year in Ontario die directly from coal plant emissions. Well, you can't do that. Well, doctor, what did he die of? Oh, well, coal emissions. Say what? Well, yeah. Do you have any evidence of this? Of course not. Because you couldn't get evidence for that. So they use this rhetoric to get people freaked out about coal, and then we get our renewable energy, which is supposed to be clean and green and free, even though our hydro bills have tripled. And all the while, your government is allowing the poison companies to poison all of your food products. Now, a lot more people die in this country from bad food than they would ever die from a coal plant emission. And the coal plant emissions are easy to get rid of. All you do is put those damn scrubbers on them, and that's it for the coal emissions. So, we're dealing with a bunch of manipulative liars who run our lives. The only way we can change this is to get rid of them. The only way we can get rid of them is to engage in it and become it and take it over. Once you have the power, you can say, okay, you know what? Take all your poison, get it off the crops immediately. Quit growing 50,000 chickens in a space that will only grow 200.
I went out to it was a couple of years back. I went out to buy, considering buying some land hens in a farm that was a clean farm. They didn't use pesticides. They were trying to do the right thing. And I talked to one of the sons of the old farmer, and you're probably, this because Michael's doing the same thing. And I was talking with him, and at that time I was talking about raw milk because of Michael.
Right.
And he said, we grew up on it. And this kid, well, I call him a kid. I mean, he was in his mid-20s. Just as strong as a horse. You could see the muscle on his body and the healthiness in his face. And
Exactly.
He said, I grew up on raw milk, he says, and raw eggs. And
yeah. Nothing that's been processed.
He said, that's what we do here.
Exactly.
I love you guys, but they're pretty expensive.
But see, therein lies the problem again.
Yeah,
right?
they make it expensive, I know.
Well, expense is relative, okay? if you weren't competing against the toxic food, you wouldn't find the price of your food expensive, because there'd be enough of it growing that the price would come down. Okay, if every farmer in this country was growing real food, the price of real food would drop dramatically. But because there's only a few, the price goes up. Well, that food's too expensive, but that's healthy. That's toxic. So now you have the public weighing they're eating based on price, not on what's healthy and what's not healthy. All right?
Well, they've given us no choice.
Well, exactly. And the few farmers that are doing it right don't have the market, and there's not enough product, which tends to move the product up, right? But no, my family, who were farmers, not big corporate farmers, small family farmers, they were so freaking healthy. It was nuts. You could just see it in their skin, even, right? They lived a long freaking time. You know, my one uncle is going to be 90 here in a month. My other uncle just passed away a month short of 95. But the thing that's amazing about it is they're sharp as tacks, right? They're not mentally deranged. They stay away from the vaccinations. They eat clean food. They grow clean food. And, you know, as important as your physical health is, your mental health is equally, if not more important. And these people who live to be very old, sharp as a tack. You know, they're not drooling and looking off into space. I mean, these people are sharp. And that's what they've changed. They've stupefied people through the toxins. You know, you fluoridate your water, which is a poison, right? The animals are just hammered. I mean, when that guy told me the story down at Newmarket, we were in court down there, and he's a farmer, and he didn't grow up. I mean, he's about 40, so this was well into the industrialization of food. He was absolutely appalled. I mean, he still is a commercial milk farmer. And when he did that experiment by taking one of his cows out of the barn and let it grass feed, and didn't do anything with it for two or 3 months, let it clean its system out. And when he milked the cow, and it was a commercial cow. When he milked that cow after about 2-3 months and compared it with the milk that was coming out of his commercial cows, it sickened him. It absolutely sickened him. That's when he realized that what he's pumping out of his cows is toxic. And when you got cows in a barn, you would think the government would say, well, wait a minute, this is animal abuse. When a commercial cow has a life expectancy of less than 4 years, when cows, I think Michael has some cows out there like 16 freaking years old. But when you've reduced the lifespan of that cow down to under 4 years, when these cows can't ovulate, because every ounce of their being is being pushed towards milk production. And then, you know, he said we had to needle the one cow, I think it was 4 times, to get it into heat. Totally unnatural. Now that's what you're putting on your cereal in the morning, poison. And all the food chain is like that now. So how are we supposed to survive it? The only way we can survive it is to get back control of the legislatures and so that we're writing the laws. And the law is get this toxic shit out of here. Let's cleanse the land. Okay? And, people say, well, you say that word Satan sometimes. Well, it is satanic. Everything that was good that was given to us has been poisoned, been destroyed. And how did they do it? Through deception. And who's the great deceiver? Ta-da! Okay? And so we got to get back. If we can't, look at the size of this country. 36 million people living in the second largest landmass country on the planet. And we can't grow real food here? Something's real wrong with that picture. Somebody said, how come we're using Saudi oil and not Canadian oil? And why are our prices so high for our oil? Well, very simple. All you got to do is go back to Rockefeller, Morris Strong, and Pierre Elliott Trudeau. That was right after the Saudi oil crisis, the fake oil crisis, holding us hostage. And that's when we moved to the world market. We don't control our oil anymore. Okay? It's our oil in this country, for the number of people living in this country, for the amount of oil we got in this country, you shouldn't be paying, you should be paying probably 20 cents a liter for fuel, somewhere in there. If I compare that with what Venezuela was charging, it was 14 cents a liter. That's in the range that we should be paying for our fuel. But because we've been globalized, we don't control anything in our nations anymore. The globalists control it all. They control the price of your food. They control how your food's produced. They control the price of your oil. They control your education. They control your governments. So we don't have a nation. And if you just if you Google, if somebody's listening to this and you Google Canada, the first post-national state, you're going to get all kinds of stuff coming up. And what is the goal of the globalists? The end of nation states. Post-nationalism. That's why every time somebody comes up and has a rally or something and say, we love our nation, we're nationalists, everybody jumps on them. Because you're not supposed to want a nation. You're supposed to want open borders. You're supposed to want a globalist government. So if you're a nationalist and you give a damn about what your people are eating or what they're learning, then you're a Nazi. You're a white supremacist. You're a hater. You're subverting democracy. All of this lingo comes flying out. Well, my attitude is simple. If you're not a nationalist, then you're an internationalist. And if you're an internationalist, okay, you're a threat to the nation. And so, yeah, we got to bring nationalism back to the fore. My forefathers came here to bust these lands open. My forefathers came here to make a better life. And now my forefathers are being demeaned with language that is backwards. We have to be nationalists. Because if we're not nationalists, what we're saying is we don't give a damn about our nation, which means we don't give a damn about our people. We don't give a damn about our futures. That we'll allow somebody else, these internationalists, to decide for us how we're going to live.
Yeah. Well,
and that's ass backwards.
You got like what? I don't know. They're talking upwards of 400,000 Muslims a year coming into Canada to escape their pain from their third world countries. So they want to jump to a third world nation and live the good life on welfare, which is what we're providing at this point. through Twinkle Toes Trudeau, and you know they people got to understand that you know, like even the people that really don't get it yet, just they still got to get it. These people got to maybe try to fix. We send them money to these countries. We send them money to try and help them. But
we just sent $200 million to Iraq.
But then they all come running here, and you know, Trump says, "Okay, I'm going to close the border on whatever," and then boom, they're flooding into Canada. I think this is a staging ground for their coup. But
yeah. I mean, these are the foot soldiers.
Yeah.
You know, it's the infantry coming in.
If you thought logically about it, just for a split second, like anybody, say, you know, we're sending you money in your country from our country to yours to help you build what you may have going wrong. And these fighting age men are leaving their women and children behind and coming over here. Like, if you're so concerned about your own country, well, stay and fight for it. I know my country's in trouble right now, and I'm staying and fighting, and I got a lot of guys behind me on this. I'm not gonna run. Well, like I would wanna run to Pakistan or all these countries that are shipping over boatloads of fighting age immigrants, migrants, illegal aliens to my country. Well, if I was there, I would stand and fight. I'd say, okay, you know what? I got to clean this shit up. That's what I would be doing.
Well, my attitude's always been the same. You know, people say, would you join the army? No. Like, would you go overseas to fight? No. It ain't my fight. Right? You know, our job is to protect our nation. Now, if somebody's coming to our nation to attempt to take over our nation, I'm in for the fight. Okay? And it was the same thing when they dragged the United States into the two wars. The whole idea of America was that we're not getting involved in that shit. Okay? But if you come to attack us, we will push you back. But we're not going to run around attacking you. And that all got changed thanks to the money men, which would be the Jews that aren't Jews, which would be the synagogue of Satan assholes, sucked America into these wars. But America is not the United States. Right? America is the people. America was the people that came here to get away from the tyranny. America is the nation. The United States is not the nation. The United States is a foreign body which has enslaved the nation. And people got to come to grips with that. You know, I saw a comment this morning. I just said something about, it was I don't even remember what I said, but it was very short, and some guy liked what I said. And, you know, and he's down there, and he says, enough, right? He's in Calgary, and he says, enough. Even my wife, when we get in the car and go driving around Calgary, you know, she just goes, enough is enough, right? You know, so you know, that's why I keep saying that Calgary could be the start point of the pushback in this nation. And I'm hopeful that's what happens here. I'm really hopeful that's what happens. Calgarians have got to rise up on Monday and say enough is enough. And they have got to go to work. And, you know, I'm really looking forward to spending some time with Helen, who called in last night, about setting up a website so that people, you know, instead of saying, you know, all these damn muzzies and that coming in here, all these migrants coming in here, it sounds negative. So we got to turn this into a more of a positive affair. And I think we can do it. But the other thing they never do, the one guy in that story I was reading on CBC, they say he's from Pakistan, and he's feeling, threatened and whatnot. But I think in Pakistan, they don't say a Muslim from Pakistan. They go, a Somalian or a Pakistani, but these are all Muslims. Okay, Pakistan is Muslim. But they try to spin this, oh, well, he's from Pakistan, right? So he's different. No, he's not. Pakistan, I think, is 85 or 95% Muslim. They're driving the Muslims in here. And we got to drive them out. Simple as that. Simple as that. If these people were coming here honestly, okay, like the Greeks came, the Italians came, the Polish came, the Germans, the French, all those people that came here basically to look for a better life. And they all integrated into the society. The Germans learned to speak English. The French learned to speak English for the most part. The Italians, the Ukrainians, all of these people came here and integrated because they were trying to build themselves a better life and collectively a better life. What we have now is a complete turnaround. Those coming in here now are trying to take our lives away from us and force their life on us, ass backwards. And we got to put a stop to it. We just got to put a stop to it. Now, Trump, saying, okay, enough of this crap, has really messed things up here, because where are they going to send all these people? Right? We opened the border to the Mexicans, and we've opened the border to the Muslims and everybody else. And whether you people realize it or not, you're the one that's footing the bill. You're the one that's footing the bill. Canadians generally are working harder, longer, for less than they ever have in their lives. And now they're supporting all of these people who are coming in here who really don't have any intention of working anyways. Come on into Canada. I was talking to a lady, actually over at Michael's farm, and I heard this this is very important. I heard this when those days that we were in the Newmarket court. Now, this lady that's out at Michael's farm now, she's from Bulgaria, and asked her how come she came here, and she went propaganda. Right? Propaganda. And this propaganda is being spread all over the place that Canada is the best country in the world, the freest country in the world, and yada, yada, yada. But when I was talking to the people in Newmarket, they had the same thing as Maria from Bulgaria had to say, was that Canada ain't free. Maria would just as soon be back in Bulgaria as in Canada. She figures she got conned. And so do these other people that came from other nations that I met down in Newmarket. I met a lot of them.
There's a simple example of how we are not free, and it's minor, but it's important, in my opinion. But I've got an old Ford in the driveway with it's got plates on it, but it doesn't have a licensed sticker.
You don't have a current sticker, right?
Right. So I need to get the tires. I got 4 winter tires that I want to put on it, and I said to my son, I said, well, we got a guy that'll do it. He's a friend. I said, well, let's just take it over. And he says, well, we can't. It doesn't have a sticker. And I said, well, let Christian drive it, and you just follow him. Mm-hmm. That's what we used to do all the time.
Yep.
Dad, he says, I can't do it. He said, if we do that and he gets pulled over, he's gonna lose his license. He's gonna lose
the insurance will double.
Yeah, triple.
Yeah.
You know, and well, there's your free society. You know.
Yeah.
You do it all the time.
Well, what is the difference? You take in a car to the garage, or to somebody's place, backyard garage or whatever, to get some work done. Now, what's the difference in that car between having a sticker and not having a sticker? It's a little sticker, right? And if you don't have that little sticker and we catch you, we're going to do our best to destroy your life.
Yep.
But it's just a sticker.
And we're free.
Mm-hmm. Like I was talking to a young construction guy the other day, and I was quite impressed with him. He's only 27, and I could tell by his eyes that he's a bright guy, right? And he wants to work. He's an apprentice carpenter. But he says, you know, most of the people, the young people, he says, they just don't want to work, right? They just don't want to work because that's what's been ingrained in. Whatever's ingrained in them from an early age is what you end up with as a man. Like men, you know, I was working at the age of 12 and having fun doing it. My dad, the boys were men at 14. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And you look at them now, and they're 20, 30, and they're little children. But he was saying, and I renovated a place in Montreal, and this is a long time ago, and I was down at the building supply place, and I was looking for, I don't know, drywall or whatever, and somebody's asked me if I was licensed or whatever. What the hell are you talking about, licensed? Well, you need a license to drywall. What the hell are you talking about? I think you need a license to paint in Quebec now. Right? And he said, they're bringing that here. You know, like carpenter used to be a big, you know, it took in an awful lot of stuff from concrete to drywall to everything in between, except electrical and plumbing. And he said now they want to license each of these trades separately. So if you're going to put drywall on, you need a licensed drywall. And I said, that's just them sticking their hand in your pocket further, right? And he goes, exactly, you know. And this guy's 27, which when I was 27, I thought I was already old, right? I had to actually get to be 138 before I realized I'm not old. So there's no freedom. You know, what do you have your license to climb a ladder for $600?
I don't.
I sure as hell don't.
My son had to get it though.
And I ain't getting it.
Well, my boss told me that my son had to have it, but
I know.
I told him I got the grandfather clause.
but
he let me go, but all the other crews, everybody one day and paid. Actually, Ron,
well, you're working.
It was $160 per head.
For what?
You had to have like a minimum 5 guys.
Yeah.
So
you got a special.
Yeah, we got a special.
Yeah. But if an individual goes to do it, it's $600 or something.
Could be, yeah.
Or whatever the cost. Doesn't matter if it's $10, right? But the working guys keep getting the hand deeper in their pocket, and then you have all of these immigrants coming in of which the general population is paying for their food, for their housing, for their clothing, for their medical, and you know, it's just asinine. You know, when you have that many people struggling in this country, and then you're talking about bringing in 400,000 a year till 2040 or 2080 or some stupid thing. But this is about the eradication. You know, they call you a racist when they're trying to eradicate your race. And you're supposed to just sit idly by and watch it happen. You know, the birth rate of white Europeans here is like 2.3 or whatever it is, and the same for the immigrants coming in, I think, is 8. While if you're in a fight and eight people are coming at 2 people, chances are the 2 people ain't gonna make out that good. And this is exactly what this is. This is a fight of population. If they're breeding 8 to our 2, and bringing these people up and putting them into all levels of politics and education and health and everything else, then how are we supposed to survive? You know, and it goes back to being a nationalist. If you're not a nationalist, then you're a threat to the nation. Because you're doing things that are against what the nation stands for. And that makes you a problem. But the media doesn't see it that way, because the media is all, I mean, you go to the UN, Rockefeller, use the media, use sports, use education, use the churches, use everything to push our message. And everything is being used to push their message. And we got to push it back. You know, you don't, you know, you put 8 hockey players against 2 hockey players, chances are the team with the 8 players is going to win the game. Doesn't matter what sport you're playing. If you're outnumbered like that, you ain't going to win the game. So if we're allowing these 400,000 a year to come in here and breed 8 to 2, we're not going to win the game. That means we lose our nation. That means that we show no respect. We have no respect for the sacrifices that our forefathers made. None. What it says is we don't give a damn about the children or the grandchildren of those not yet born. To be anything less than a nationalist is to be a traitor against your own people. And we got to change that mindset around somewhere. I was up at the reserve yesterday getting smoked. And this Indian guy, native, who is probably, I don't know what he is, I'm 6'4" maybe. He's probably 6'2". And I think he's in the process of transgendering. But that beside, I mean, it throws me when I run into this guy. Because, hi, how are you? Right? You know, and sometimes wearing earrings and bracelets and whatnot. And I mean, he's full-fledged, he's confused, as so many people are today. But, you know, I told him, I said, you know, the native people, I said, you know, I'd really like to connect with some natives. In fact, I'd like to get you on the show. Not him in particular, but someone. But, you know, I said, I don't even like the word native. You know, I don't like the word native. And he goes, neither do I. Right? I said, because all that does is separate and divide, right? And he goes, exactly. And that's what they've always done. They've done it through religion. They've done it through politics. They've done it through race. They've always done that. But then the Jews are sneaky. And they're very deceptive. And once they target what they want, they don't give up on it. Now, they may have to change the way they go about it, but generally speaking, they use the same templates. Because if we're going to save this country, we can't have this division of the people. And they said, well, are you excluding Islam or the Muslims? Absolutely. Because they're not here to be part of this nation. They're here to take down the nation. Okay, that makes them an enemy. They're not here to be part of this country. They're not here to be part of a nation. They're here to eradicate our nation and replace it with their nation. And that should piss people off royally. Oh, well, we all have to be one. We're all one. No, we're not all one. Okay? You cannot mix Islam with anything else. It's not mixable. It stands alone. And I lost all my tabs, so I didn't get a chance to see what that was called again. I read about it, but that was the, people say, well, it's the universal human rights, universal animal rights, okay. But then you have universal human rights, then you have the rights of the Muslims and Islam, and then you have indigenous rights. Okay, so you got three separate rights going on here. And the idea is to use these two rights to destroy the rights of all others. And a lot of people think that universal human rights connects all of the animals together. No, it keeps them separated. One guy a long time ago, I remember him saying, wait a minute here, I was looking at this and it says universal human rights and then it says indigenous rights. And then the question is, are indigenous people not humans? I don't know. But human is most definitely defined as an animal. So we're just herd animals. They herd us with deception. They hurt us with propaganda. But they've herded us. We're not individuals. We don't think individually anymore. We're afraid to think individually in case we might upset somebody or say something that's politically incorrect. So they've herded us, and they drive the herd. And usually, when you're driving a herd somewhere, it normally ends up at the slaughterhouse. And if you look at the health of the people, mentally and physically, you're being slaughtered. More and more stories are coming out from hospitals and old age homes about people who are dying that shouldn't have died. When I first brought that up, I don't know, a long time ago, people, that can't be right. They wouldn't do something like that. And then when I was talking to nursing people and the people that come to homes to check in on older people and that, when I'm talking to them, was in about 2 years after I started saying what I was saying, they're going, you know what? I think you might be right on some of this stuff. When I first explained it to them, they go, oh, that's ludicrous. But you put the seed in their head. Now they're looking at things with a little different set of eyeballs. They're keeping an eye on what's going on. And they're seeing people dying that they know shouldn't be dying. My sister is an administrator for an old age home, and she thought I was nuts when I brought this up to her. And then we're talking, and she's going, well, you know, there's people that leave here with very minor difficulties, but they're not coming back. I go, exactly. They're not coming back. Right? They were taken to the slaughterhouse. So we got to break free from the herd. And once enough of us break free from the herd, then we can turn the herd. Okay, a herd is nothing more than a collective mindset. And we have to change the collective mindset. And you can take that back to a simple thing like food, right? And move the people back to demanding that the toxins be taken out of their food instead of just ignoring it. I don't know how we can ignore all this stuff all the time. I mean, one of the favorite things I recall from food, which was from my ex-co-host, and he lived in Toronto, so they used to go into the grocery stores, and they had these Frankenfood labels, and they would just go in the coolers and that, and they'd open the door, and they'd just stick these things on the cooler doors. So when people came to the coolers, they were met with a Frankenfood sticker. And that's brilliant. You know, that's almost the same tactic as Faye and Helen and the others used in Calgary to get the fluoride out of the water. You know, it's almost like a shock sticker, right? And it puts a seed in people's brains. It does. It shocks them. And they use the same type of campaign in Calgary to get the water out. You know, the council's phone numbers, their home addresses, the fact that these people are poisoning you and your children, and it's like a shock. And they managed to get the fluoride out of Calgary. So to say that we can't get our nation back is ludicrous. I mean, you know, a few people in the city of Calgary, which is over 1 million people, just a few dedicated people with a dedicated plan out of the water. Now the powers that be are fighting to put it back in the water, and you've got all kinds of doctors and dentists lying through their teeth, being given space in the media to say how badly we need fluoride back in the water. So, you know, even though you win a battle, you know, it will show up again because they don't want to lose this war. So we gotta win more battles more often, and then we'll win the war. You know, they have wars against everything. You know, it's a war against drugs. It's a war against this. It's a war against that. They all get wars. There's always a war, in which they use their propaganda to get people to submit to their thought processes and their plans. Well, this is a war against you. This is a war against your nation. This is a war against your children, grandchildren, and those not born. So, yeah, it's a war. It's a psychological, spiritual war. And it's a war that we have to win. And I have no intention of losing this war. I have no intention of watching my nation disappear. I mean, my heart goes out to the native people for what they suffered through and how they ended up. And, you know, still get, well, it was the Christians that did that. No, it was the same corporation that's screwing you over now. Very same corporation. Unfortunately, these so-called Christians were herded and sucked up to propaganda. And and this is why the natives ended up the way the natives ended up. And if you want to end up the way the natives ended up, then just sit down, shut up, and duct tape your face so you don't say anything politically incorrect. And you're going to end up on the reserve, completely dependent on the government, in a city where you have no control over anything and you do only as you're told to do. And the idea of, well, listen, why don't we just, you follow the car and we'll run it over to Joe's and he can put the tires on it, and nobody thought twice about it, to today where you can't do that. We don't have a sticker. My God, we don't have a sticker. If we get caught, we're shit city. Now that's reducing people into scared little children position. And that's what they've done to the general population. Our duty is to strengthen the mind, spines, and spirits. And then all that fear disappears. Once the fear has disappeared, we can turn the herd. Here, because they've lost. Once the people stand, they got no power. Your oppressor has no power once the people stand. And if you want a nation, you're going to have to stand. And you're going to have to teach others. And you're going to have community groups, not out protesting and signing petitions, but sitting down and analyzing where you went wrong, what's got to change, how we're going to change it, right? We have to set up basically community war rooms, which is what they have, the globalists have. They have a global war room. They want this result here, they do that over there, right? They want to manipulate over here, they do this over there to get to their goal line without us standing up. That's the whole point of their plan, is to get what they want without actually getting us awake so we see exactly what's going on and we go, hold the phone, buddy. They're very, very clever people. Our job is to, as I keep saying all the time, keep talking, teaching, and shining the light down at the community level. And once you have enough people that understand how badly they're getting screwed over, now they have the power to stand up and say no, or they have the power to go get the majority vote in a local council. And then we get our nation back. Wishing to get our nation back is not going to get our nations back. Hoping that a new government is going to do something miraculous and turn things around is never going to happen. I mean, all of these provincial and federal leaders are voted not by the public. They're voted by their party. So they what they're doing is they're voting in the best manipulator, the best liar that is a member of that party to lead that party of deceivers and manipulators. So it doesn't matter what party you vote for, you're voting in the end, you're not voting for the leader because they vote for their leader. So you never vote for a president or a prime minister. The party picks it. And who do they pick? They pick the best liar and best deceiver, best manipulator, whose job is to manipulate the masses through lies and propaganda and all this. For who? The benefit of who? For the globalists. So if you think that you're going to somehow vote for Scheer, I think his name is, the new leader of the Progressive Conservatives, or or the guy, I don't even know what his name is, the guy who's now the leader of the NDP, who has probably the tallest turban, and he likes to wear pink turbans and yellow turbans, and, you know, he's a rainbow turban guy. Do you think any of these people are going to be of benefit to this nation? Or you've lost your minds. We have to become the army. We have to win this war. Because we're the only ones that have the capacity to do so. And if we just wander around with our heads in the sky, oh no, I don't want to get involved in anything. You know, it's the best country in the world. That just makes me puke. Every time I hear somebody say, oh, Canada's the best country in the world, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, if Canada's the best country in the world and it's the second largest landmass country, we've got more resources per capita than anyone else on the planet, then how is it that we have people that are hungry and people have no homes and people living under bridges and people that are not doing well in this nation? How the hell do you classify that as the best country on the planet? Like you're lying to yourselves. You're absolutely lying to yourselves because you don't want to deal with reality. Well, if we don't deal with reality, we're screwed. You know, they've got your mind into this fictional world of propaganda and deception and manipulation. And you just go along with it. Why? Because they've weakened your mind, your spine, and your spirit. That's why. And you should be pissed off. I mean, really thoroughly pissed off that you allowed this to happen. That you allowed them to poison your water, that you allowed them to poison your air, that you allowed them to poison your food, that you allow them to poison the minds of your children. You should be pissed off at yourself, not at the politicians. You need to be pissed off at yourself. And until you get pissed off at yourself, you ain't going to do nothing. You know, so go stand in front of the mirror and run through some things that you know are not right in this nation and ask yourself, what are you going to do about making them right? Because if you're waiting for somebody else to make them right, and everybody's standing in front of the mirror waiting for somebody else to make it right, you know, you might as well go get bumper stickers and put them on your car and go, I don't give a shit about my nation or my people or my children or grandchildren. I don't give a shit. Because that's what you're saying. So only you can make a difference. You're it. Now you, multiplied by millions, all what is wrong with this nation can be fixed almost overnight. When I say overnight, I'm talking 20 years. But if we don't do it, it ain't fixable. And, you know, and then what kills me, you know, you got all these animal rights groups, you know, somebody didn't feed a dog at its regular feeding time, so the SPCA should go and take the dog away from these people because they abused that animal by not feeding it at its regular feeding schedule, of which we've been watching, yada, yada, yada. But yet these same animal groups' rights say nothing about kosher or halal food because they're both killed the same way. Why is it they don't say anything about that? You know, you have the churches who aren't saying anything about multiple wives and that all these wives are collecting welfare. You don't have any of that. People bitching about that too much. You don't have too many people really bitching about the early sex education when the guy who was a senior policy advisor for education on Ontario just happened to be a pedophile. You don't hear people bitching about that too much. Oh, they may bitch about it for a day or two. And then something else comes along that gets their attention, something to bitch about for a day or two. And on to the next thing. And nothing ever gets changed. Nothing ever gets accomplished. You know, in the old days, they used to take these people out and hang them and then quarter them and drag the pieces through the streets. Don't do that anymore. Politically incorrect, apparently. When you have a small group of people that's intent on messing with your children, I mean, how low can you go? Your education system is at the point now where its only true value is to the globalists who are there to specifically bend the minds of your children, destroy the minds of your children. And you sit back and go, well, we went to the school board meeting and they just yelled at us, so we went home like what? A bunch of useless, scared little children. Now, I don't like violence. I don't know how many times I got to say that. They want you to get violent. They're doing everything they possibly can to get you violent because they know once they get you violent, you've lost the fight. It's not about violence. It's a spiritual, psychological war. And they're using psychology to get you angry so that you lash out at some protest people, you know, hurt somebody so they can center your group out in the media and trash your ass in the media. So even though you're speaking the right story, nobody's going to listen to it. So you don't go there. They're taking us down quietly. We have to destroy them quietly. You know, there's that one picture. I just love that picture. I mean, that picture, I love it. Bunch of no-mind slaves on their hands and knees with a playing board on their backs with a bunch of rich-ass scotch drinking, cigars smoking, manipulators, liars, thieves, sitting there enjoying a game. And the caption is, I think, something along the lines, all we got to do is stand up and the game's over. Because if we stand up, that playing board and all the pieces and the drinks and everything are gone. Game over. It's that simple. Now that's taken that in a very short time frame. But 20 years is a very short time frame. This idea that if it's not going to get fixed today, it's not fixable is ridiculous to even think about things that way. They've been at this for centuries. Centuries they've been at this. They've killed hundreds of millions of people in order to get what they want. Now, I said this a long time ago, and somebody took it and put it in a video. This is a long, long time ago. Now, they've killed hundreds of millions of people trying to get what they want. Can you imagine what's going to happen if you give them what they want? If you roll over and just give them what they want, Do you have any idea what your life is going to be like? Or your children's life, or grandchildren's lives are going to be like? You know, you got to wake up to some realities. This is the last bastion. There's nowhere left to go. There is no new world to go to. There is nowhere to leave to get away, get out from under the boot of tyranny. This is it. Our forefathers came to these lands specifically for freedom and peace. And all that's been taken away from us again. And there's nowhere left to go. Everywhere is the same. So somewhere is going to have to stand up and be the light bearer for the rest. And North America is it, folks. North America is it. If North America doesn't push this back, if North America doesn't regain control of the nations, then it's over. If we do what our forefathers did and are prepared to sacrifice, and I'm not talking about sacrifices in lives, I'm talking about sacrifice in a little bit of time, a little bit of commitment, a little bit of engagement. If we play our cards right, we will win this. We're holding the hand. Possession is 90% of the law, and they're quickly taking possession of our lands and everything we built. And if we let it go too far, it's going to be very difficult to get it back. Then you're going to have violence, because that'll be the only solution at that point. We don't want to get that far. We don't need to get that far. We just have to simply, enough is enough, and run these clowns out of here and take back our nation and start growing good food and stop all this vaccination horse shit and get the fluoride the hell out of our water. Simple little things. Get back to read, write, and arithmetic. Cleanse our lands, our nations, of all this globalist mental manipulation that's going on. If we do that, we will be the light for the rest of the nations, and they will stand, and we will stand with them. And we will drive this damn evil off the planet. And should it rear its ugly head again, we've put ourselves in the position of the watchman. And they will never be able to get going again because we're watching for them. We know what we're looking for. And it'd be very simple to stomp out so they never raise their ugly head again. And then, and only then, can we say that we're in a position to live in peace and freedom. And if you want to take your car down to the local garage without a freaking sticker on it, fill your boots. Understanding the law. The law is way simple. And the law is treat others as you wish to be treated and cause no one any harm. Now, if you can get your car from A to B without causing anybody any harm, then by all means, take your car from A to B. The legal system is what took away your status as a man. because you can only control what you create. They can't control man because they didn't create man and they didn't create law. So they change their status to animals/humans, and they control us under their manipulative legal system. We got to get rid of that. So we got to get back to being men, not little twerps. And we got to get back to law, which is freedom. And that's just the way it is. And if we can't manage to do that, then we're not men. We're a bunch of little sucky babies. And I don't wish to be a little sucky baby. Now, we've got a few minutes left, and it's the last of really Monday's voting day, which is tomorrow. So I'm going to try. Oh, I want to put this into the chat. Where did I put that? I want you to look at the logos here. Now, a lot of you people know the cube, and a lot of people know the pyramid. Now, this is World Mayor, of which the 2014 project, of which Naheed Nensi, the mayor of Calgary, won. And it was put out that this was a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I will just throw this in here. These are all, you don't win this prize unless you're really pushing the globalist agenda. And one of the reasons Nensi won this is not just because he's pushing the global agenda, because every municipality, every city, every town is pushing the globalist agenda. He won this basically because he's pushing the globalist agenda, the gay agenda, and he's pushing, and the fact that he's a Muslim, first Muslim mayor of a major North American city, is why he won this. So you can, I think this here link, yeah, there's a front page there, utilities. Let me just go there. Yeah, okay. Maybe I'll, yeah, I'm going to put this in just so that you see the logos. And then if you push, so if you're listening, you just go worldmayor.com. That's it. And I just want you to look at these logos here, and then on the left, if you just go down to utilities, which is right near the top, and hit front page, it'll take you to the front page, and you can go through a bunch of this stuff. A lot of people don't know about World Mayor. They don't know about resilient cities. They're too busy bitching and complaining about a particular politician. They're too busy. They're too wound up in this right-left stupid game. But this is really worth looking at. And then I'm going to try and get a hold, if I can. She's probably out. She might be home. She might have a cell phone. But I'm going to try and get a hold of Karen Draper. Just wish her the best in the election on Monday, and hopefully I can get a hold of her. Let's see where we're going to find her at. You know, when you boil it all down, I mean, when you boil it down to the absolute basics and the lowest common denominators, for us to lose our nations and our futures is ridiculous. I mean, what has to be done to take back our nations is really quite simple. They know it too. I'm going to just try and see if I can hook up with her. I mean, they pounded her. into the ground as a racist or radical, and yada. All she is a lady that speaks the truth. I may not catch up with her. She may be out banging doors or something. But she's learned a lot, and that's the other thing. She's learned so much about politics.
Hi, you've reached 403-230-5069. Not home right now. Please leave a message. Bye.
Hi,
After you leave a message, you can modify it by pressing pound.
Hi, Karen. It's Ron from Rock the Boat Radio. I guess you're out banging doors or whatever. Just want to wish you the best of luck tomorrow, and hope you win the trustee position. And if you don't, you and I both know you learned a lot through this process. So best of luck. Congratulations for stepping up to the plate. And we'll talk to you I'll probably call you tomorrow or something and see how the election went. Okay, take care. So,
did you just make personal phone calls?
What?
Doing a live show?
Yeah, I like doing that.
and then you left a message on a live show.
Yeah, why not? You know,
you could have done that after your show.
No. I was hoping that she would be around, but I'm sure she's out banging doors and that today. You know, they thought they could knock the legs out from underneath of her from the bastardization they put on her right near the beginning of the election. And what a real trooper does is get stronger from that, not weaker, and it just strengthened her, and she knows it. And so, you know, I'm just proud of her. I'm just really proud of her. I mean, here's a girl in her 30s who came through a school system that lied to her from the day she went into it. And she has done an awful pile of research. She's done an awful pile of reading, of learning all this municipal nonsense. You know, she even said, you know, like her parents were getting concerned that she's indulged so deeply in the reading in that. Well, you got to know their playbook, right? You got to know it. And this is a problem with most people. They don't want to engage. They just want to, you know, go to the movies and go to the restaurant and go to work and pay no attention to what's right in front of their faces. And so Karen, I mean, she's, you know, I don't. When I was in my 30s, again, I felt old. I've been through so much, done so much, and been, you know, and but for when I look back now, same as that young apprentice carpenter, another really sharp guy. He sees what's going on. Okay, he's not just going to work and, you know, getting drunk and shit like that. This guy is paying attention to what's going on around. And I do believe that more and more young people are getting into that camp. And it's the older people, like you, not me, but the older people like Chris. We are the ones that have to be there to help these younger people. We're there to encourage them. We're there to help them, you know, guide them of what they really need to understand and what they need to read. And our job is to help make them stronger. You know, like this young apprentice carpenter yesterday, 27 years old. When I'm talking to him, you know, like he reminds me of me in a way because he can't really express himself to his friends because they're herd, you know.
System.
Yeah. And so our job is to be there for those people and to encourage those people and so that they can encourage their age groups. That's how we win this. There are no heroes, right? There is no such thing as a hero. There's people who understand what needs to be done and do everything in their power to get it done. And that's how we win this back. So, you know, But you know what, like you there with that car. That's a great example. You know, like if I went now to some friends or whatever and say, you guys want to go hunting or something, sure, just throw the guns in the back of the pickup truck, right? And you're driving around with a bunch of guns exposed in the back of a pickup truck or laying on the back seat of a car. Nobody thought anything about it. Oh, you guys going hunting or just target practicing or what? Yeah, we're going to shoot a bit. Oh, have a great day. Now, if somebody spotted those guns sitting in the back seat of a car or in the open box of a truck nowadays, all hell would break loose.
Fucking SWAT would show up.
Same guns, same everything. Nothing. I mean, it's all the same. But this through the mental manipulation and that, all of a sudden, this is a big problem, right? And it's not. The only problem is that we've been manipulated. That's the problem, into believing things that aren't true. You know, like I remember when I was a kid in Renfrew, Ontario, hunting season. You walk down the main street, right, and there's deer and moose and bear tied to the hoods of cars, on the roof of cars, in the back of pickup trucks, right? And we didn't have any animal rights groups freaking out. We didn't have any gun people freaking out. You know, it was just normal.
Well, we got so much deer up here that, you know, I drive down the road and I got another driver driving for me because I'm not allowed to drive because the government said. and a deer started going across. I said, hit the gas.
Well, that's the other problem, right? Like they've just, you know, there's more cars hitting more deer every year because there's less and less hunters every year. And, yeah, it's getting dangerous out there. You know, like you drive around, like it's not uncommon to see 50 deer in a field, right? And the deer, I don't know you know, they building turtle crossings, right? And whatnot, but they don't build nothing to keep the deer from jumping out of the ditch at you, right? So I don't know what that's all about, but the whole thing's messed up big time. I mean, and I think more and more parents, like that guy that wrote that little comment or that reply to whatever comment I made, you know, is saying that his wife now, just driving around in Calgary, looking around Calgary, right, going, something's bad wrong here, right? And these people have lived in Calgary forever. There's something wrong here. And that's the first stage, really, is to realize that something ain't right. Once you realize something ain't right, then you start looking at things differently with a different set of eyes. And once you start looking at something with a different set of eyes, you start to ask questions. And once you start to ask questions, you got to go start looking for the answers. So, you know, it's not us that's desperate. It's the evil side that's desperate now. They know they're running out of time. Because people are waking up. We just got to do everything in our power to move it quicker. And they will fall. You know, they will absolutely fall. And then we can start again, you know. But we all have to do our part. You know, the young guy I was talking to, the apprentice carpenter, he's going, you know, we were talking about building inspectors not knowing anything. And he goes, yeah, it's freaking ridiculous, right? Yeah, I know. They come with their piece of paper and they say, well, it says here, you know, it says here you can't move your car without a sticker. It says here you can't do this without work boots on, right? Same shit. And he said, yeah, this new building inspector they got, he said, she's completely clueless. And I said, oh, yeah, I ran into her when we were doing that commercial building last winter. And she actually drove by. When she came in finally, you know, she goes, I've been driving back and forth this building like for 2 months. and I can't find any permit for this. So there ain't one. Well, don't you think you should get a building permit? Nope. It says, it's all cosmetic. So have a nice day. Thanks for dropping by. Hit the road. And if you got any problems with that, go talk to the head building inspector, who we had a 3-month fight before. And when we were done, the CAO, or city manager, and I sat down, and he said, "What is it you want?" I said, "I don't want them anywhere near me." And he goes, "Well, you seem to know what you're doing." I go, "I do, yeah." "Well, okay. So you're saying I don't need building permits?" "Okay. So, but what's more important is you're saying that your staff, your building inspectors, are incompetent." And so I haven't been doing that much construction, but I ain't getting building permits. Piss on them, right? I'm not going.
I'm thinking back, just based on what you're talking about. I did what people call the Taj Mahal. I did a triple deck on a $8 million house, right? Like, I started from the ground, bottom deck, middle deck, and upper deck.
Yeah. And
I had to, build the spec, and I did. The building inspector at the time said, "Well, you got to show me your pattern." And I went, "I got to do what?"
I know.
So I literally sat down and drafted what I did, and where my nails were, how many nails I put, 2x12s.
Yeah.
6x6 columns, which she could easily see on her own.
Yeah.
And then, you know what my response was after I did all that and submitted it?
What?
Well, I needed engineered spec. So we had to pay $400 for an engineer to come in and go, "Well, I see no problem with this."
No, I know that's because they want to cover their asses. But when you sketch that out, you got to remember this stuff. We're just about out of time here, but you got to remember this stuff. When you sketch, I used to do that all the time. They said, "We need a blueprint." And I just bring in, and it's not the scale. It's not, there's the numbers, right? And there's how it's being built. And, well, it's not a blueprint. Well, if you can't deal with this, you get out of here, right? Because you're stupid. I ain't spending money on blueprints and all this kind of bullshit to build this little thing, right? Go away from me. But what you should do is always carry a crayon with you, because you sketch that thing out the deck, right? Which will all be in just, and then just hand them a crayon and say, "There, now you can go color it," right? Because you're incompetent and you're a child, and get the hell away from me. But we're out of time, I think. So I want to thank Chris. I want to thank the listeners, always the chat guys. And, to the people in Calgary, this is your point. This is your opportunity to make your voices heard. So get them heard. And don't worry about being called a racist or a hater or a subverter of democracy, because the words that came out of that man's mouth, he is all of those things, not you. Okay, so kick his frickin' Muslim ass the hell out. But understand, he ain't going away. You kick him out of Calgary, he'll be working for another part of the government or another tax-exempt foundation or something. These people don't go away. They might not be visible to you anymore, but they're still working to bring you down. And that's something else you got to understand. So, and there's the music. So that's 2 hours of that nonsense. So Hal, by the way, I can't remember this. Hal's on deck at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. He said, there, we're going to take you out behind the foot. Thanks, Chris.
Fuck them back, it's only for them more. They shoot, they kill, they massacre,